Okay. Is this on? Is this on? I hope it's on. How is everybody? What's going on here? How is everybody tonight? I hope everybody's doing well. Maybe some of you are in like a spring break. Maybe some of you. Of course, we in the podcasting world, we don't get breaks. So I just get to watch people out on the beach have breaks while I do my unfound work up here on the 8th floor. But still, things are going well. I hope everything is going well for you. Let me put up my outline for tonight's show. There we go. All right. Okay, look at all of you. Good to see all of you. Thanks for tuning in tonight for this live show for March 23rd, 2022. I have no idea. I was thinking, how many live shows have I done? It's, we're going like 4.5 years. And don't think I've missed too many weeks. So it's quite a few. It's the number is up there for sure. But it always feels like the first time when I'm here. So, but everything's good. Very busy today. Very busy day. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. It's one of those days where, you get up with an agenda, and surely my agenda for today, I had enough to do. Wednesdays are usually one of the busiest days of the week for me. And then I ended up going off on a tangent and even giving myself more work. It's just the way, and I'm starting to look at a disappearance from 1997 that could be connected to an arson. And then I'm trying to figure out which arson it was in this particular city. And you just never know. I'm telling you, you just never know what you're going to run into from day to day. So let's see who's in here. Valerie first. It seems like Valerie gets to be first quite a bit. Hello, Charlotte. What's going on with you? The Real Capelia from Australia. Boy, that rhymes. Got a couple questions from the Real tonight. Hello, Carrie and Paula and Christy. Hello, Cherie. Thank you for moderating tonight, Cherie. And she got I'll explain those little badges here in a moment. Stitching, what's going on with you? K-Dog. Hope everybody's doing well. Good to see you, K-Dog. I hope your night is going well where you are working. And I can't believe it's been, at least a few weeks since you were down here. Man, the time flies. Yes, it is that time at Stitching. You are correct. Hello, Kathy. Carrie says, on the 8th floor sounds so fancy. It's fancier, Carrie. The 20th floor on the top. That's way fancier. Crystal, and Crystal's reminding everybody to hit the thumbs up button. Hello, Stacy. I think, Stacy, are you new? Are you new to the live show? I don't remember you tuning in before. Maybe you've just been a casual listener and you're chatting for the first time. Well, welcome. Carrie says those rabbit holes will get you. Carrie, it wasn't necessarily a rabbit hole, but it certainly was a research project. Mona, Barbara, and Stitching. I'm here not feeling good. My allergies suck. I got allergies going on my too, Stitching. I've had to hit the inhaler a couple times over the past week, hit some Allegra. And so I feel you, Stitching. I feel you. And Barbara says, don't make the live show very often. Well, Barbara, thank you for making time tonight. And it's going to be a good show, I promise. So before we get too far into this, as Crystal's already told all of you, if you're watching, the live show is going to be good. It's good every week. I never disappoint you. So just give a thumbs up to it right now. Just get it out of the way because you might forget. You might. So if you're watching, whatever kind of device you're using, please hit the thumbs up button. That helps us with the YouTube algorithms. Also, the subscribe button is right down here, or is that over here? I forget if it's a mirror image or whatever. But hit that subscribe button. That certainly helps us as well. I've kind of switched around a few things here on the YouTube channel, doing more with the YouTube channel here in 2022. So I want to make sure everybody is watching, everybody's subscribed, hit the little bell button so that when we upload videos, as we do often, you will be alerted. And of course, you'll get an alert when this live show starts in case you forget that it happens at 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday nights. Also, you're seeing, if you're in the chat room and if you have a gray name, you're probably thinking, what's up with these people with these green names and these like little pictures or whatever they are beside their names? Well, I'm going to tell you. Those are the people who have joined the membership program here for the channel. And you may say, how do I join? The button's right here on most devices. If you're watching like on an iPhone, then there's no join button. Why? I don't know. But right down here, here's a little join button. And that is how you can sign up to be part of our membership program. You may ask, well, what do you get? I'm going to tell you what you get. You get a daily update from me telling you what I am working on for Unfound. So if that day, of course, the live show, or maybe the think tank, or I'm making some phone calls, or I'm working on the script for that Friday's episode, or I've done an interview, or whatever else, you're going to hear about it. These videos usually go 3 to 4 minutes long, and I do them daily, although I have to admit a few days ago I missed a day. I think that was on Sunday. But you will get a daily update from me on what is going on behind the scenes at Unfound. And from that, you will quickly learn how busy I am. And I try to, when I'm doing these, try to give you a nice little background. Sometimes I go out to the balcony on that side or this side. And I've kind of been experimenting with that. So you're going to get a daily update. Also, you are going to get the episodes that come out every Friday. You're going to get them early, a day early. So on Thursday, right here on this channel on YouTube, you will get the Friday episode early. That's not a bad deal. So a day earlier than everybody else. You'll get to listen to it or watch it. I'm going to be talking about that. You'll be getting that earlier than everybody else. Also, I give you a preview of, or a little sneak peek into the blog for that week. If you are not a Patreon member, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast, you get a little sneak peek, and I will record it. It's usually 5 minutes long, and I'll put some pictures to it. I will post it right on this channel for only members to listen to it. Of course, these blogs usually end up going 20, 25 minutes long, but I'll post about a 5-minute little blog just so you get a flavor of it if you want to join on Patreon at patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. So you may be wondering, well, what does this cost? $2.99 a month. That's it. So if you want to check it out a little bit more, just go right down here to hit the join button. You aren't automatically signed up. You'll get to look at what I just talked about and see if that interests you. Stacy is saying, yes, it's her first time. And Mona, Lisa, everybody, thank you for joining in tonight. So I talked about that. What's going on with me? Played a little disc golf yesterday. Not well. Played doubles. Myself and my partner, we came in dead last. Pretty much thanks to me. But I've not been playing much. Been too busy since I came back from Pennsylvania. Working on a lot of stuff. Got a lot of stuff going on with Unfound. A lot of stuff. There were how many teams there? There were 20 teams there, and we are not technically last. We came in 19th. not good. Oh, right over here at Taylor, my local course, not a very good showing at all. But when you don't practice, how well do you expect to play? Now, the plan is to go out tomorrow, but it's supposed to rain all day tomorrow, and I'm not going out in the rain. But supposed to go out with my brother Brian and my niece's my niece, my brother Brian's daughter Ashley, and her husband Ben, and their daughter Dahlia are in town. And actually, they went to Disney today. But Ben is a disc golf player, so myself, Brian, and Ben were going to go tomorrow. But the rain is going to be coming down tomorrow, and unless it's a tournament that I've already signed up for and everything, I don't play in the rain. I don't practice in the rain. I don't go play casually in the rain. I don't play doubles in the rain. There are too many nice Florida days to go out and play when it's raining. So if that's the case, then I will not be going to play tomorrow. However, I will be going to trivia tomorrow evening. So that's what's going on with disc golf. I'll probably play Sunday as long as it's not raining for the handicaps. That'll be my first time there in a few months because I haven't been around. And then I do have a couple one-day tournaments planned for April. One round, one day tournaments. So we'll see how that is going. In other news, maybe I told you all this maybe end of January, early February, that during the NFL season, I'm involved in a pick'em league. And I won that pick'em league, and I won $200 some, but I haven't gotten my plaque yet. So the commissioner who runs the league sent me an email today saying, "Hey, you still have to come over and pick up your plaque." And I should have done that back in January, late January, but I wasn't here because I was in Pennsylvania. So I have to remind myself to go pick up my plaque for me winning it. I'm going to try to do that after trivia tomorrow night, and I'll have it here for the next year until the end of the next pick'em season. And so I'll probably have that for show and tell next week for the live show. But he sent a picture of it even to me, and he's already etched my name, for winning the season in it. And it's pretty cool. And this is my second time winning it. I hadn't won it. It's been 8 years since I won the league. So pretty excited about that. And the money's not too bad either. And I love to win. So we'll do a little show and tell with that plaque next week. Next, Dad's thinking about coming down. We'll see if he follows through with what he's talked about coming down. But my experience with him coming down is that he talks like he wants to come down. And of course, he's been here a few times, although it's been over a year. But he always says, "I'm going to come down for a month. I'm going to do some fishing. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that." But then when it comes down, he's here for like 2 weeks and he's ready to go home. Mainly because, he's a big friends guy. And this was the big thing when it came to him not having his license for that time, is that he couldn't get out and go see his friends. He couldn't drive down to Leechburg and wherever and see his friends and go out to breakfast and all these things. Well, down here, he doesn't have any friends. I'm here, sure, but of course I have my work to do. And then, of course, my brother Brian and his wife lives here, and my dad gets along with them fine, but still they have their lives to lead. So I think he's down here for a couple weeks and he gets a little bored. And so then he's like, "Well, I just want to go home." And it happened both times. The first time he said he was going to be here for a while, and he was here for like a little over 3 weeks and decided he wanted to go home. And then the last time when he was here from 2020 until he didn't even make it to 2021, he came down like, I don't know, before Christmas of 2020. And then he wanted to go home like the day before New Year's or something like that. He just the way he is. And that's fine. So we'll see if he follows through. Of course, he's invited. I'm not stopping him from being here, but I just get the feeling that it'll happen when it happens. And he still has some things to take care of up in Pennsylvania regarding him losing his license for that time as well. So he still has some paperwork and other things to handle regarding that. And I don't think that he can do anything until that is done. But we'll see if that happens. Also, did you happen to see this this truck and tornado video? That there was some really bad tornadoes that came through the Midwest within the last few days, and in New Orleans got hit. And there was video of this red pickup truck right in the middle of this tornado, and it gets rolled over, and the person still drives away. Crazy. And I don't think I was alone when it came to me that this seemed a lot like that movie Twister, going way back like 25 years ago, or even longer than that, with Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton. If you will remember, in that movie, they were driving, of course, it was a red Ram pickup truck. I think the truck within the last few days was a Chevy, but from far away, it looks like the exact same thing. And you're thinking, is this from the movie or is this real? But it was real, and it is amazing. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's on a variety of places, of course, on here on YouTube for sure. That somebody's well down the highway and the camera's pointed ahead, and this truck's tornado is going from left to right. This truck's sitting there, it kind of gets twisted around, it rolls over, and then it gets back on its wheels. The tornado keeps going, and the truck comes down this way, going the opposite direction. People were very lucky. Very, very lucky. How they ended up getting stuck in that tornado. I mean, you can see it coming a mile away. I don't know. I did read, though, that the driver of the pickup was like 17 years old. So maybe that's the reason the truck ran into that tornado, maybe. So, these days you can never tell. Did somebody do this just for some sort of trying to make some sort of viral video? I'm going to drive right into the center of this tornado. People do stupid stuff like that. So you never can rule that out. 20 years ago or even 10 years ago, you'd think nobody would on purpose do that. These days, it seems like anybody will do anything for attention. So we can't discount that this might have been somebody's attempt at a viral video. I'm glad it worked out for them, or him or her, whoever. Carrie says, if that wasn't the best Chevy advertisement ever, I don't know what was. That's going to be in a commercial. Carrie, it has to be. It has to be that that ends up in a commercial somewhere. I mean, some General Motors marketing executive surely is going to pay for that video. Surely, gotta believe. If not, then they're just completely dropping the ball. Moana says, love that movie. Yep. Twister. Yep. And Brittany. Hey, Brittany. Hey, back to you. Sup, Jill. Once again, Jill with the green name with the badge beside her name, because she is a member on this channel. Carrie, I think it was a truck driver's dash cam that caught it by accident. I can believe that, Carrie. I'm just wondering if there was somebody had a camera actually inside the Chevy pickup that got rolled over. Now that would be something. That's what I mean, with somebody trying to create a viral video driving into the middle of it. So those are some of the things going on that have caught my eye that have nothing to do with Unfound or true crime or disappearances or anything else. I used some of my Outback. I have to say, finally, I'm to the end of my gift certificates. Maybe some of you follow my personal page on Facebook, know that back in January, I discovered I had all these gift certificates from Outback, Olive Garden, and they totaled like almost $300. And I think that I finally used up all of them yesterday. No, I still have one left. I still have a $50 gift certificate to TGI Fridays. The problem is the nearest TGI Fridays is way over in Hillsborough County in the Tampa area, which is like being in another country over there. I'll figure out how to use it one way or the other. But I'm down to just that one left. Yesterday, I went to Outback and carried out, just got the stuff and took it home. But that's the second time in maybe the last 2 weeks that I've done that. And got a steak, got some fried shrimp, had a salad with the bread and everything. It was fantastic. And it's always nice to eat for free. These are gift certificates that I've gotten over the last couple years. And just what happened was back, I'm guessing in December sometime, I was cleaning out my car and I just found them. They were in the glove compartment under some stuff. And I'm going, oh yeah, I forgot all about these. And I ended up checking them online to make sure they still had amounts on them. And some of them had never been used. And it totaled close to $300. It's crazy. So I decided, well, maybe I should do that. And I used a couple of them when I went down and played it in Estero, Florida back in January. But finally, we're about getting to the end. But I still have this $50 TGI Fridays card. So I got to use that one way or the other. Cherie says, used to work at TGI Fridays, turned 21 at the bar there. I bet you did, Cherie. 21 at the bar at TGI Fridays. I bet there is a story there. I haven't been to a TGI Fridays since I lived in Las Vegas. I surely have not been to one since I moved to Florida. Probably because they're so far away from where I live. But in Las Vegas, I can still see where a couple of them are, and they were a lot more convenient to get to. But I know I haven't been at one since I lived in Las Vegas. So I guess I'll be making a trip there soon. It just have to be really convenient, though. I'm not going to drive the whole way over there to use a $50 gift certificate. I will have to be over there for some reason and then use it while I'm over there. So there you go. Brittany, how do you like your steak? Toward the rare side of medium, Brittany. And it was good. Brittany also says, I'd love to clean out my car and find money. It happened. It's that's the way it happened. That's all I can say. You have to remember, when my mother was alive, she used to send me Olive Garden gift certificates all the time. She would send me these care packages once in a while with like crackers and Twizzlers and all these things. And every one of them should include like a $25 Olive Garden card. And I would use them when I go to play disc golf tournaments out of town. So if I had to eat while I'm out of town, I could eat for free. I can't tell you how many times I played in Orlando and ate at the Olive Garden on International Drive and didn't spend a dime. So she used to do that. Of course, she's been dead for over 3 years now. But I got to tell you, some of these gift certificates or gift cards that were in my car, they probably are. They have to be from before she died. And there are surely ones that she sent me way back when. And I also got a couple from my brother Michael for Christmas. So we have to add those in there as well. So that's how it ended up totaling that amount. I don't eat out much. I only eat out when I go out of town for disc golf tournaments. So, unless I go to trivia, but it kind of just goes out of my mind. And, you keep putting these gift cards in the glove compartment and I'll get to it. And you forget about it. And then one day when you clean out your car, it's like, oh, there you go. And that's how it happened. Moana says gift cards make good gifts. They do. I love them. Brittany, me too. Stuffed chicken, Marcella, and calamari from Olive Garden. Your mama sounds like a lovely woman. She was a lovely woman, Brittany. Very unique, very special. Everybody misses her. Christy, yes, sweet mom, Brittany, calamari, love the old squid. So yeah, I ate it out back and pretty quick. I went and played disc golf, ordered on my phone. It's like a 12-minute drive maybe to the Outback. I got there. Within 2 minutes, they brought me out my order. And then I drove home. So it was pretty cool. The disc golf, not so good. The dinner, very good. And trust me, after that round, I needed a nice dinner. So that's what's going on with me. Just keeping very busy as ever. Not doing a lot outside of Unfound work right now. Like I said, though, I will go to trivia tomorrow. But a lot of things going on, as my assistants know. Charlotte says, I love the Outback. Me too. I'm probably more of a Texas Roadhouse fan when it comes to steaks. And dare I say it, the Texas Roadhouse Blooming Onion, whatever they call it, is better than even the Outback one. But I'll take either. Either are great. And, and the funny thing is, I was up with my dad for 38 days. Do you know we didn't go to Texas Roadhouse once? And it's not that far from where he lives up there. Did not go there. I didn't even realize that until I came back to Florida. I was like, dang it. So kind of missed out on that. Yeah, it is, Charlotte. Yes, it is. Okay, so that's some of the personal stuff going on with me. I think one of the things I've also resolved to do, I don't think that I'm going to be playing as much disc golf, like tournaments this year, as I usually do. Really trying to watch my expenses a little bit. Toward the end of the last year, I kind of totaled up how much money I spent on tournaments last year, and it was a disgusting amount of money. Not even, I don't remember what it was exactly, but when I totaled it all up, it was disgusting. And I didn't even factor in like the gas driving to these places back and forth. I totaled like the tournament fees and the housing fees and the food fees, if there were any. I didn't even total in gas, and it was a disgusting amount. It was like that got way out of hand in 2021. So I'm going to be cutting back on that in 2022. So I'm going to have to replace that probably partially with something else. And probably now that COVID's done and all that, I have a gym in this building down on the second floor. Going to start hitting the gym again. So, and I haven't been doing that. So it's probably going to take up a little bit of my, being physical and getting out and doing things time. But I'm still going to go practice disc golf right up the street for free. Charlotte says, I ate at Zoop's the other day with my granddaughter. It was pretty good. I've never heard of Zoop's, Charlotte. Never heard of it. Is that a chain or what is it? I don't know what that is. All right, let's get to the items for tonight's program, starting with this. As I usually do when I start this section of the show right around the 9:30 time, about a half hour in. Let's talk about the Dub and Chance Wackerhagen poll. And maybe some of you noticed during the interview with my friend Heather Grotman, I said Walkerhagen maybe once. That was a mess up. It's Wackerhagen. That is a C in their name, not an L. Wackerhagen. But many of you know in the discussion group on Facebook that we do a poll every week just to see what everybody's thinking. And the poll question was, did Dub kill Latricia? Did Ron kill Latricia? Or did somebody else kill Latricia? And an overwhelming number of you stated that Ron killed Latricia. And obviously then Ron had something to do with Dub and Chance's disappearances. In the think tank, it was a little mixed. No surprise. Rarely do the discussion group and the think tank agree. Why that is, I'm still trying to figure that out. But if you don't know what the think tank is, you need to be a Patreon member to be a part of it. Patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. It's the only one of its kind where we get together and really, 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 really talk in depth about the disappearance or the episode for that week. And that discussion happens on Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern. And that discussion usually goes for about an hour and 15 minutes, much like here, but it's a very small group, 10, 11 people. So the conclusions of everybody, a little more mixed. As for me, I write a blog at patreon.com. And it's really the only place that I ever talk about my own theories regarding any of the disappearances that Unfound has covered. And I have to tell you, I went against the discussion group and went somewhat against the think tank and decided that Dub, in fact, did kill Latricia. I think the reason that I came to that conclusion, I wrote 3,000 some words on it, just a little too complicated to think that anybody else did. I just could not put it all together in a way that made any sense to me to think that somebody else, Ron or anybody else, did it. I know about the blood in the back of the truck that was Dub's, but I think that could be explained. It was his truck. Very well could be that Dub and Latricia got into a fight before he shot her. And as far as do I think the Dub killed Chance, I'd hope that he wouldn't. But the fact is, if kids go missing, most often, it's the parents who cause it. And if kids are murdered, it's by their parents. So we have to all keep that in mind. I know people don't like thinking about that. It's repulsive, and many of you are parents and can't imagine ever harming your kids. I get it. The problem is the stats run contrary to our feelings. So that's what I decided. I, of course, would hope that one of these days that we find out that that's not the situation, but it's just too many things up in the air to think that somebody else did it. Of course, if we had more facts, we'd know probably exactly what happened. But that's the conclusion that I came to, that actually Dub did kill Latricia, took off with Chance. And my guess is that their remains are really not too far from where the truck was left. That's my guess. We know how searches fail. Searches are incomplete. And if there's one thing that I could tell Dub's family or the mother of Chance, her name is Gay, it's probably a choice. It's probably a good choice maybe to think about doing a search in that area all these years later. Charlene, hello everyone. Turning in once again from Ireland. It's 1:29 a.m. here, but I wouldn't miss this for anything, including sleep. Well, Charlene, I'll try to make it worth your while to stay up late. Of course, you're going to be up till like 3 in the morning, but if that's okay with you, it's okay with me. And I hope, do they celebrate St. Patrick's Day in Ireland? I would think that every day in Ireland would be St. Patrick's Day. But if you did, I hope you had a good one last Thursday, Charlene. Christy says, great and unusual story. Yes, disappearances of Dub and Chance. I agree, Christy. I agree. It's very sad. No matter what happened, very sad. Charlotte, they have soup and bread. Yes, it is a chain. We ate at one in the Pittsburgh area. There is one in the Pittsburgh area. Interesting, Charlotte. Did not know that. Never heard of it. Never heard of it. I'd be interested to know where it was in the Pittsburgh area. If you know, Charlotte, being that I was just there for 38 days. Okay, so that's the Wackerhagen poll. Of course, there will be a poll that will come out this Saturday morning regarding this Friday's episode. I will be talking about that episode, of course, right at the end of this live show tonight. So let's move on to something else. Because being that the real is in here, I'm going to answer a question that she asked. She emailed me 2 questions, so I'm going to take one of them now and then one of them later in the show. The real Capelia, you can see her in here. She asked me, is it common for police/investigators to lose vital evidence? I'm especially referring to long-term investigations in which this evidence is stored for a significant period of time. I would say it happens. I really can't say how much it happens. Hello. Yes, I see you there, Real. Thank you. It happens. And although I can't name a disappearance off the top of my head specifically where that kind of situation has been mentioned, it is surely um a thing. I'm guessing we've talked about that at least 5 times on Unfound over the last 5.5 years. 5 separate disappearances where things have been lost over the years. Sure. So is it, I don't know if I can say it's common. I would say that it's not rare. It's not unusual. Why does this happen? I think, unfortunately, most of the time when people hear something like that, they start thinking, well, there's something underhanded going on. Police are trying to cover something up. And what I try to do is remind everybody, we all lose things. We lose socks. How does that happen? I mean, we all pretty much have washers and dryers in our apartments or homes. We wear our socks. We wear them out. We wear them home. We take them off. We throw them in the hamper or wherever. We wash them. And still we lose socks, even though we shouldn't. They go somewhere. Who knows? So if people can lose socks, even though there's no reason to lose them, and really, they're on you or they're off you at home, how can you lose them anywhere? Then surely police are going to lose things over 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. You have to remember that a lot of these police departments move, especially if they are in urban areas that have really grown up, especially in states where the population has exploded. For example, here in Florida, Texas, Nevada, a lot of these police departments' headquarters 30 years ago were totally somewhere else. Got bigger, they had to move, and in moving from point A to point B, things get lost. This happens. In fact, I can tell you when I went to Greeley, Colorado, that, and maybe you remember this story from when I talked about this, that I was being escorted through this building that is now the courthouse, and I was walking through there, and it was such this weird architecture inside. There was something about it that didn't make a lot of sense to me. This is like the weirdest courthouse or weirdest kind of building. And what did the woman tell me? Where the courthouse is used to be the jail. And because Greeley got so big and they needed a bigger jail, they built a bigger jail and they moved the courthouse into this building, and they do administrative stuff, I guess, in the old courthouse. They just grew out of that old courthouse and figured out how to save a couple bucks. Well, we could save that building. We can move it over here instead. We only have to build one building. We don't have to build 2 buildings. So these things happen. And to think, nobody's perfect. I'm not, I'll say it. I never think that there's something underhanded going on there. So, getting back to your question, the real, is it common for police/investigators to lose vital evidence? I'm especially referring to long-term investigations which this evidence is stored for a significant period of time. Like I said, I would not call it common, the real. I would just say it's not rare. I would say it happens. And it happens, I think, because people make mistakes. People aren't perfect. Now, where does it go? Where does this stuff go? It just depends. It very well could be that somebody comes across something and maybe something falls out of an evidence bag and they think, well, I don't even know what this is, but I'm tossing it out. And, very well could be. And then, of course, then some places, maybe they have some sort of plumbing issue or there's a fire and everything has to be moved. A lot of things happening out there in the world. It's the world. What did Bender say in the Breakfast Club? Screws are falling out all the time. The world is an imperfect place. That's the way I think about it. So what I would tell you, the real, and I know that it's a particular case that you're looking at, I would not attach any nefarious activity toward it. It's unfortunate. And I'm guessing that once in a while, this does get in the way of maybe, having a complete prosecution. But as long as humans are doing things, mistakes are going to be made. Charlotte says Zoops is on Freeport Road, and Freeport Road, I know where Freeport is, Charlotte, but I'm not sure I know where Freeport Road is. Christy says socks is a great mystery. The reason I brought that up, Christy, is somebody actually asked me that question a while ago for a live show question. Where does the other sock go? And I answered it. Paula, if Kathy is here, she would know which ones. Her memory and recall cases is amazing. It is. Carrie, how do we lose socks? A little trades them out for Tupperware lids that we all have no bowls. Yeah, that too. I don't know. Coffee says that socks gets under the washer agitator. Yep, Christy, I could do a podcast on mystical disappearing socks, and I would listen, Christy. Coffee, the socks are lost in the water washer agitator. Carrie, one thing that gets lost is storage. Policy and such has changed so much over time. That's true, Charlotte. I used to tell my kids that they had a sock-eating bed when they were growing up. That's funny. See, I struck a nerve with the socks comment because everybody knows it's true. Paula, my dog steals socks and buries them. No mystery at my house. You solved that mystery. You are the Sherlock Holmes to your dog being Moriarty, Paula. Carrie, our county sheriff's office used to be a federal building and a post office. Yeah. Charlene, you are very kind. Thank you for your contribution through the super chat tonight. If everybody's seeing that big green box that is now slowly going up the screen, Charlene monetarily has decided to contribute to Unfound. I think that is in euro money, being that Ireland is in the EU. Thank you, Charlene, coming the whole way to us from Ireland. And I'm going to keep up the awesome work. Thank you, Charlene. Thank you. The real, thanks, Ed. That explains it well. Just the way I look at it. As you know, the real, I'm not a murder expert. And so evidence plays a much bigger role, of course, in unsolved murders than it does in disappearances. But I think that if you were to track down some podcaster who only does murders and unsolved murders, I'm thinking that maybe they would go toward the conspiracy angle. And I think that would be unfortunate, but I think that they would say about the same thing. Charlotte's close to Cheswick. Oh, right, Charlotte. You said that you were going to be staying in Cheswick for a while, an area, and I know well. That's right. That is where Freeport Road is. Thank you. And if you follow that road long enough, do you get to Freeport? I don't think so, which is weird. The real, and socks end up in the vacuum cleaner. I know this for sure. That too. Okay. Now, the super chat, like I said, Charlene hit the button right there in the little gray box with a $sign in the middle if you'd like to monetarily contribute to the program. And once again, if you are watching this tonight or if you're watching this way down the road, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps us with the YouTube algorithms. Please consider subscribing to this channel as well. So let's move on. Yes, I am going to talk about the radio show, that radio program with that radio host and everything regarding Tom Brown, but not quite yet because I don't know how long that's going to go. And I want to make sure that I talk about these other things. So if anybody's tuning in for my commentary on that, it's coming, but I have some other things to get to because once again, I don't know how long that's going to go. Being that we are on this YouTube channel, something new is starting this Friday. Now, for all of you who are members of this channel already, all the people in the green with the little badges by your name, you're going to be finding this out tomorrow. But for the rest of you who aren't members yet, we're going to start doing a video version of the episodes every Friday. This came to me. I've talked about this a couple weeks, but now it's finally happening this Friday. So in 2 days or less than 2 days, it's going to happen. This is a suggestion that my assistant Cherie, who is also the moderator in here, made. That I have the technology to do it. It is a little more work, but not as much more work as you might think, as I've discovered. There will now be an audio version and a video version of Unfound. The audio version, it will continue as it always has been, 2 p.m. Eastern on Fridays, Spotify, iTunes, everywhere else. Not Podomatic anymore for reasons you already know. But also, I have filmed using Zoom. I recorded this Friday's episode, the interview for this Friday. And so you're going to see me. You're going to see the guest. We're going to be talking back and forth, split screen. And it came out really well. Looks really good. The audio is very good. And in fact, I'm using the Zoom audio for the actual audio episode, even though there's no video. Well, for YouTube, you're going to get to see myself and the guest talk back and forth, but also the rest of the episode is also going to be a video. So you're going to actually see me doing the recording of this episode. When you see me talking there for the video is when I'm actually recording the episode that becomes the audio episode. So it's like a simulcast type of thing. Now you're going to notice some edits because I don't get it right every time. But you'll see me sitting right here, and the camera will be right here. I got some good lighting. I'll be sitting like this. You'll see the Unfound sign in the background, and you will see me going through the intro, the music, of course, the little theme that I like to have for every episode. We go through the summary of the case, all the news and everything, and then the interview will come on, and you'll see me with the guest. And then afterwards, it'll come back to me. I'll be speaking here. You'll see me reading from the screen, reading my part of the episode, and then it'll finish. Cherie seemed to think that this is something that people would want to watch. So we're going to give it a shot. And like I said, it's not really that much work for me. Actually, the most work was me trying to figure out how I was going to position the camera so it looked okay. That was the biggest part. I could figure out the technological side of, and all I'm doing is using my phone to record myself, and then I transfer the file over to my MacBook. I use iMovie to put it all together. Not that it's probably maybe for each episode, maybe an additional hour of work. Maybe. And I'm sure I'll get better at it as we go from week to week to week. And I've already done the interview for next Friday's episode on Zoom, and it came out great too. So this is going to be a thing as long as the guest doesn't mind being on Zoom and being seen. I can't make them want to be on Zoom, but if they agree to it, then we're going to do video. Of course, what that also means is I'm going to have to keep myself pretty. So I'm going to, when these interviews happen, that I'm going to have to make sure that I shave and make sure my hair is okay and all these things that I would normally not have to do if we were just doing audio like we've been doing for the last 5.5 years. But I'm willing to, make some changes in my lifestyle if I think that it's going to improve the channel, improve the program. People will become even more interested in Unfound. And so that's why I'm going to do it. This is a first. To my knowledge, there is no other program doing this kind of simulcast thing. Of course, there are many true crime podcasts out there, but I don't know if they make a video version of the podcast. Likewise, I know there are a lot of true crime channels on YouTube that are video but aren't just audio. For example, John Lorden does not do just an audio only show. Jason A. Barry does a lot of interviews. You've seen him if you've watched him. He does interviews with people, kind of a split screen type of thing, but he doesn't do an audio version. Stephanie Harlow, she just has a YouTube channel, doesn't do just an audio show. I'm going to do both. So it's crazy, but it can be done. I have the technology, especially with this MacBook, which is fantastic for that type of thing. And so we're always looking to break new ground here at Unfound. And so we will be doing that. That wasn't meant to rhyme. What's everybody saying? The real, it's Mila, Carrie Wilburn, Charlotte Cherie, whose idea it was, says yay with the emojis that she gets for being a member. Christy, so we can watch the episode on YouTube. Yes. So we already, of course, even going back to when Natasha was with me, that would have the audio version. Then eventually the episode would be posted to YouTube, but with pictures, the picture of the missing person, maybe a picture of a map, maybe a picture of a suspect, things like that. Well, now we're taking it one step further, but instead of all the pictures, it's actually going to be me. You're actually going to see me interviewing the person and me recording my side. So all those pictures and things are going away. Thank you, Charlotte. Christy, and we still get a regular podcast. Yes. So there will be an audio version that will come out on Spotify, YouTube, etc. And also a YouTube version where you'll get to watch me. So I guess what I'm saying is if maybe the audio version maybe gets a little boring for you or something, you can always go over to the video version and watch me. The camera will be right there. And then you can watch me, my facial expressions, the guest facial expressions, and me conducting the interview that way. So we'll see how it works out. I'm committed to it. So there you go. Carrie, Charlie Bravo has amazing ideas. So glad you're receptive of her ideas. Shree's now saying Harlow actually has a podcast that she also records on YouTube. Huh. Well, that just shows you how much I know. So maybe we are not breaking as much new ground as I thought. But, I don't know. Does Stephanie do interviews? I don't know. I don't watch her enough. So that's what is happening that's going to be new this Friday. And like I said, I already did the Zoom interview for next Friday. And I will keep it up as long as the guests agree to be seen on video. I have to admit, this Friday's guest, she was like, I'm going to be on. Oh, no, I didn't know this was going to be. But she did great. She looks great. She did a fine job. I think that... I think her worries were put to the side once we got into it, and she did a fine job. Christy says, don't wear jammies on the interviews. Well, the good thing is, Christy, you can only see me from the shoulders up anyway. But the shirt I picked out for, I'm wearing an Unfound shirt for the interview. But for the actual my part of the recording where it's just me, I actually wore my Taylor Park Disc Golf Club shirt. So if you're going to be watching it and you see Taylor Park across it, that is my disc golf club that I'm a member right over here. So I'm doing a little advertising for them. Moana says, I'm a true crime heard podcast junkie, and I've seen or heard about you on John Lorden and Stephanie. Thank you, Moana, for checking it out. I don't know Stephanie. I've never spoken to her, never had any email exchanges with her, anything. But of course, John Lorden and I have done some episodes together. And of course, just this past Thanksgiving time, I interviewed him, did, I think, probably the most comprehensive interview he's ever done about himself, about how he started, brain scratch, etc., his attitude toward true crime and all of that. So maybe you, Moana, maybe you've heard that already. If not, I would go back and listen to that. And that's back, like I said, around Thanksgiving. So I know John well. Moana Harlow's YouTube. Jasmine, Stephanie Harlow does great interviews too. Okay. So be looking for that Friday. I'm sure I will remind all of you on Friday. When the video or the audio episode comes out, the video episode will also come out. I'll make it public for everybody on YouTube, and I will surely remind all of you if you want to check it out that way. So moving on, this is, I bring this up because you never know what's going to be posted in the group. And I realized that myself, maybe, of course, somebody brought up Kathy. We have very good memories when it comes to these disappearances. Even though I've covered over 240 of them, you give me a name and I can pretty much tell you the general facts of what happened. But of course, I do not remember every little detail. I'm pretty good about picking out years and how old a disappearance is. But some of the more finer details, there's just no way to remember them. But this is a perfect example of that, and that's why I want to bring it up now. Somebody in the group, and it's still there if you'd like to go look at it in the discussion group on Facebook, brought up Juanita Nelson's disappearance. This is a disappearance we covered in early 2019. I think this was one of the first episodes that came out after I came back from Pennsylvania, after staying with my dad up there, after my mother died. And to remind you, Juanita Nelson was 17 years old and she was supposed to be going to school and she didn't end up there. And this is a disappearance that happened quite a few years ago. Well, out of nowhere, somebody posted in the group, somebody, I think maybe has just, and new people are finding Unfound all the time. Maybe Moana, maybe you're one of those too, that listened to that episode and picked out something very specific. And I gotta be honest with you. I had even forgotten that this was a part of that interview that I did with Juanita's sister, Katie. And it had to do with this backpack that Juanita had, that it was hers. She usually carried everything in it. But on the day of her disappearance, she had called her grandmother to complain that her brother had taken off for school and her mother had driven him. And she believed that her brother, I'm guessing younger brother, emptied her backpack out and took it with him. So it's like he ripped her backpack off. And so she was all ticked off about that. And so she called her grandma to complain. Why she called her grandmother to complain, I don't know. But I think this disappearance is old enough that this was before cell phones, I think. So, the issue then is, was this backpack ever covered? And I went back and listened to that part of it. And that was something that I don't think has been resolved. If this brother did take the backpack, did he bring it home that day? Was it found? Was it found? Kathy says Juanita was child number 2, second daughter. That's right, Kathy. Katie was the older one. That's right. And I know I saw you comment on this because I know that disappearance happened near where you live in California, Kathy. Yes. But that's one of those details, and I'm sure we could pick out many of the disappearances. And unfortunately, due to my work, how busy I am, I don't have the ability to go back and listen to a lot of these episodes just in my spare time. I don't. The only time I really go back and listen to them is if, of course, there's big time breaking news, maybe like happened with Andrea Bowman's, for example, or Zoe Campus's. Or if we're going to be talking about a disappearance, or a disappearance on an upcoming show with Dr. Telesco, which is, of course, happening next week. Then I'll go back and listen to at least the interview part of it, or I'll go back and even find my notes that I took at the time, because I have notes from every conversation that I've ever had with anybody's over the last 5.5 years. So I'll go back and look at that. But in doing that, I often find, man, I forgot about this. I forgot about that. And this backpack thing with Juanita Nelson's is something that I did forget about. And this person's point was that, man, that seems like the main idea, the crux, that really interesting point, the point that really sticks out regarding her disappearance. What are the odds on the day that she disappears that her brother, takes her backpack? I just don't know. And I tagged Katie with the post, but she's not responded yet. And I have to admit that the tough thing with Katie is that I'm not saying we're on bad terms or anything, but after the episode came out, Juanita and Katie's father was very upset about the episode. Maybe this is ringing a bell for some of you now. That after the episode came out, she actually went out and posted on her personal page that in no way did she mean to damage the reputation of her father and all these things. And, I kind of got the feeling that she was trying to put that off on me. And all I do is ask the questions. And as all of you know by this time, we don't talk about anything in an interview that isn't in the outline that is given to the person before the interview starts, and they approve it. So because of this, I ended up talking to Juanita and Katie's father. And it happened on Super Bowl Sunday. I remember where I was. I was over at my brother's. I remember I was standing on the street out there, whatever the Super Bowl Sunday was in 2019. I started talking to him at the beginning of halftime. So I missed the halftime show for that particular Super Bowl. I ended up talking to him from then until the end of the third quarter. However long that time was, an hour. That's how long I talked to him. And the more I talked to him, the more suspicious I got of him. So since that episode came out, I would say that things have been maybe a little cool between myself and Katie. I'm always still here to help. If she were to call me tomorrow, and I'm sure I have her number in my phone, if she were to call tomorrow, I would pick up. Absolutely. But it's maybe a little bit of a unique situation with Juanita Nelson's disappearance in particular. But getting back to this backpack, it may be something. Certainly, this listener who posted about this in the discussion group, I think, is making a very good point, a point that I had forgotten. And maybe this is something that, needs to be looked into. And, it's one of those things that pretty much anytime I do go back and listen to an interview, I listen to it. When I do, I think, well, maybe I could ask this question. I could have gone this direction. And I'm sure I make mistakes in every interview that I've ever done. Maybe we should have fleshed that out a little bit more in that discussion. We're not sure whatever happened to that backpack. Juanita seemed to think that her brother took it. Is that the truth? Did he bring it home that day? What happened to the backpack? We certainly could get an idea of Juanita's frame of mind at the time. She's all ticked off. Did that contribute to her disappearance? I don't know. But so any of you, if you've maybe listened to that episode, maybe way back when, maybe it's another time to give that episode another shot. For those of you who have not gotten to Juanita's disappearance yet, maybe you're new to the program and you're going back from newest to oldest or something like that. That is certainly one maybe you want to jump to right now, being that I'm talking about it. That's the disappearance of Juanita Nelson. That's an episode that came out in early February of 2019, so over 3 years ago. Like I said, I think the general, Juanita, she had gotten into some things. She had a boyfriend who didn't seem like he was too good of a guy. And she wasn't going to a regular high school. She was going to like a special high school where she had to ride the bus a long ways or something like that. And she never showed up for school that day, even though she had talked to her grandmother early that morning. So I think a lot, if I remember correctly, IIRC, a lot of people were suspicious of her boyfriend. Makes a lot of sense. A lot of people were suspicious of her father. Makes a lot of sense. So, or maybe she just took off. But that's something that I wanted to talk about. Thought that was interesting that a listener maybe came across that episode for the first time, and that really stuck out to him or her. Wanted to talk about it. So, Juanita Nelson. Moving on, I just want all of you to send your thoughts and prayers. I know that's become like a cliche here in the 21st century, but I mean it. That Connie Burrell, who was the guest for the Jackie Letany disappearance from last year. You might remember Jackie Letany seemingly disappeared in Alaska. He was from Texas, but had gone up there for work and disappeared while he was in Alaska. I don't want to get into the specifics, but her daughter died. Young, I think early 20s, and very sad. I follow Connie on her personal page. She follows me on Facebook, so I always know what's going on in her life and what she's doing from day to day because she posts a lot. And I saw her post this a couple days ago. So I think this was something that was out of nowhere. Like I said, I'm not getting into specifics, but if you could, I know some of you maybe are friends with her on Facebook as well. Of course, many of you heard her when she was on at Unfound last year. Could you please keep her and her family, send out your sympathies any way that you can. Very, very difficult time for her. Like I said, I think this was something that came out of nowhere. With some people saying, Kathy said, my parents lived in Los Gatos since 1969, just north of Boulder Creek. That's where Juanita disappeared. I haven't lived in Los Gatos since 1974. Super expensive. Okay, Kathy. Paula says, I listened to Juanita's episode today. I know everyone copes differently, but it's bothersome that her grandmother didn't share about the phone call until later. Yeah, now that you bring that up, this was something that didn't come out till a lot later. Paula, once again, I don't know what to make of that. Jasmine, I most definitely send her my sympathies. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Jasmine. So, I do try to keep in touch with as many guests as I can. Of course, we have like 200, almost 250 of them, or even more than that, because we've done some episodes that didn't include family members, but you always hate, seeing stuff like this. Even though I've met very few of them, I feel like I know them. And so it's very sad. Very sad. Moving on, kind of in the same vein. I think a lot of you know this already. A lot of you I know are friends with her on Facebook. I also want you to send your best wishes to Stormy Dorsey. She was a guest going way back to 2017. She was on with her mother, who has since passed, for the disappearance of her brother Brandon, who was on a bus ride from Utah. He was seemingly going the whole way down to Key West, but it seems that he got off the bus in Nashville, Tennessee, and never got back on the bus. And he is still missing. This was going back to, like, I think 2014, 2013, something like that. And if you'll remember, a couple years ago, Stormy had brain cancer just out of nowhere. She was fine, and she collapsed, she fainted, and she got taken to the hospital, and she had a brain tumor. And so they did surgery, and she recovered from that. Well, she's going to have another surgery here in April. And I'm not talking out of school because she's posted it on her page. But please send your best wishes to her. Of course, we're hoping that the second time goes exactly like the first time, but it's come to it's probably the diciest surgery that can be done, anything having to do with the brain. So I know Stormy, she's very secure in her faith, and she's going to be praying a lot. And I hope that you will, whatever you believe in, fine by me. If you could send out your best wishes to her. I don't think this surgery is going to be happening till like the middle of April. So we got some weeks, maybe 3 weeks or something like that before it happens. So you have a lot of time. If you'd like to send her a message, I'm sure she would like to hear from you. Once again, that's Stormy Dorsey, who was the guest way back in 2017. Yeah. Yep, Christy. Yep, it's going on. People, my perception is with people who have brain cancer that they, you have to go get periodically checked. And I think that's what happened. She was due for a checkup. She went and they did the MRI and the doctor saw something. Is it as bad as the first time? I don't think to my knowledge, she's not having any illnesses or any side effects, or she's not collapsing again or whatever happened the first time around. So I'm hoping that this time maybe won't be as invasive as the first. So we'll just have to see. Carrie says this time is a little harder for her as well. Her mom, who recently passed away, was her surgery and chemo partner. Wish I could be there with Stormy during the time. Yeah. Yeah, Stormy's mother died. When was it? Near the end of last year, Carrie. It was certainly recently. Kathy, Stormy has been through the mill and she's young too, a great person. Yeah, she's not old. In fact, she's not old and she looks, I think, younger than she is. So, yeah, just can't imagine it. Just can't. And as a guy who has cancer, who runs in his family, not brain cancer. My biological mother died of kidney cancer, liver cancer. And my biological father died of throat cancer or stomach cancer. So I know about that. My brother Brian had prostate cancer at one time, but he made a full recovery about 10 years ago. So I know all about that. But brain cancer does not seem to run. It's a lot of the stuff is genetic, but you got to get those checkups. So everybody, please send your best wishes to her. Let's answer the second part of the Reels question. If she's going to tune in from Australia, I got to make sure I get to the second question here. This is kind of maybe a little related to the first question. How common is it that evidence has been discarded because investigators thought they had gotten as much information from it as they could at the time, but are kicking themselves because advances in DNA technology would now make that evidence useful if they had hung on to it? Once again, this is something that I'm sure happens the real, but I don't know how much. As you know, we don't talk very much about forensics or DNA, anything like that on Unfound, because most of the time there's none. Yes, we talked about blood evidence this past week with Dub and Chance Wackerhagens, but that is rare. Pretty rare. So I guess this would just go into the same category for your first question. Then I'm sure over the years, going back to before DNA could be studied, could be analyzed like it is now, yeah, they probably did. But I think on the other hand, we know that a lot of murders, disappearances, I guess, too, from the 80s, 70s, 60s do get solved through DNA. Why? Because police departments did save them. They suspected or believed or took a chance. I don't know what kind of word you want to use. For example, the original Night Stalker. The last person he killed was in 1986, as far as we know. Of course, that was at least several years before DNA became a thing, but still, They, even in that murder, and even going back to the other murders that he committed in 81, 80, and then the rapes from the 1970s, they kept that evidence. Could they have predicted how well it would work out 20 years later, 15 years later? I don't know. Maybe they just had an inkling. Maybe something will happen. But I'm guessing there are many places, maybe smaller towns, that don't have the ability to keep that DNA in a decent form so it doesn't deteriorate or anything. Probably just tossed it. Not thinking, man, this isn't going to go anywhere. And that's that. That wouldn't surprise me. Do I blame them? No. We have to remember that probably right now in 2022, there could be things that are getting tossed, ignored scientifically, that maybe in 100 years they could have used. Do we really expect, though, police departments to save that? I mean, how could they even know what's going to happen? So, I would not be too hard on them, because we do know that a lot of police departments do save it, and there's some that don't. So how common is it? I really don't know. I'm sure it happens. Are some probably kicking themselves? Probably. Just like we kick ourselves in some disappearances, just as I'm sure some investigators kick themselves when it comes to disappearances. They show up, they take the information, and then 10 years down the line, maybe they figure out they should have handled it a different way. Yeah. So that would be my answer to your second question, the real. Moving on, Desiree Ferris. This is a disappearance just like Juanita Nelson's that I don't think has been mentioned on any update episode ever. I don't think Desiree Ferris's has been mentioned on any update episode either. At the most, maybe one. But there was a tip. And, Carrie, this is in your area of Missouri, the state of Missouri. But they're going to be doing a search based on a tip regarding the disappearance of Desiree Ferris. If you will remember, Desiree had some issues in her life, hanging out with the wrong people. And she was with a couple guys, and they claimed that they dropped her off in some part of St. Louis, the Liberty part of St. Louis. And she was never seen again. Of course, we know what we think when we hear stories like that. That's probably not the situation. That's probably not what happened. But something has happened that is now causing her family to get involved. And they're going to be doing a search somewhere. There was a picture of like a bridge. Where that is, I don't know, that went along with this post. But it's not happening, I don't think, until April. Carrie is saying it is. I saw the tip. I'm hoping to take time off to help with the search. Oh, Liberty is part of Kansas City. Sorry, Liberty is part of Kansas City, Missouri, not St. Louis, Missouri. Thank you, Carrie. Is this, Carrie, do you have the idea, is this somewhere in the city, or is this out in the country somewhere? If you could add anything to what I saw, please do. But I thought it was important to mention it because this is a disappearance that I don't think I've talked about since the episode came out in maybe, when was that? 2019, 2018. So, and I feel bad about that, but if there's nothing to talk about, there's nothing to talk about. So, Carrie, if you can add anything to that, there's going to be a search done. And of course, we know a lot of times these tips don't go anywhere, but you can always be hopeful and helpful. Carrie says they are not releasing the location. Okay. Carrie says, I think it is a rural part of the Kansas City area. I didn't know there was a rural part of the Kansas City area, Carrie. Thank you. Okay. So everybody, maybe 3 weeks from now, a month from now, I'll have something to talk about. And of course, if there are any posts on Desiree's Facebook page, the page that is devoted to her disappearance, then I will share it in the discussion group so all of you can check it out. Julie says, yeah, I was wondering. There you go. Moving on, being that I just spoke about Dr. Telesco not too long ago, about 10, 15 minutes ago, we'll be getting together again next Friday, March 31st, the last day of March, next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern on her channel. And we will be discussing the disappearance of Jessie Ross. I had given her a choice of, I think, 3 different disappearances, kind of disappearances that I think are different than any of the ones that we've covered so far. And I had to go back and actually look at which disappearances have she and I talked about in the last year and a half. I had to go back and check that. I should probably make myself a list. But she picked Jessie Ross's out. I think that it's a good choice, being that she is in a college atmosphere. Jessie was a college student, and he went missing on a college trip. So I will be working on that next week to be prepared for next Thursday. And as I stated earlier, this will be a situation where I will have to go back and listen to the episode to just go through what Jessie and his father was the guest, what we talked about when he was on the program. So Jessie's, I think that was a disappearance we covered late 2020. I think so. So it's been a year and some months, and we know that Jessie's disappearance, kind of well known, maybe not as well known as Brian Schaefer's or Jody Huisentruit's, but it's certainly in like the top 7 of the most well-known disappearances that we've covered on Unfound that were popular before we got to them. So we'll see what we have to say. We'll see what Dr. Telesco has to say. And of course, her assistant, Brendan, will get to chime in as well. And it might be helpful for him as a college student to offer his insight as well. So next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, live on the Fischler College of Education and School of Criminal Justice YouTube channel. Carrie says KC Metro is huge. Some outlying areas are rural. Okay. Julie, my computer phone not working right. Smartphone, dumb phone. That's funny, Julie. Kathy, you did Desi's podcast about 2 weeks after I joined Unfound in late January 2019, shortly after Juanita Nelson's. Thank you, Kathy. Is that when it was? I was thinking I knew it wasn't 2020, so I knew it was 2019 or 2018. I have to be honest, Kathy, the way I usually think about these disappearances is, did I cover that disappearance before or after my mother died? I know the last episode I did before she died was Robert Cox, and the first episode I did after she died was Lucas Degerness. And then I try to split it up, and it helped maybe recently that I had to go through all of Unfound's episodes, is trying to link everything up between Megaphone, Spotify, and the website. So I was going one by one and seeing when some of these came out. So that maybe is helping my memory right now. Carrie, from what I understand, the tip is very credible. Okay. I'm hoping, Carrie. I'm hoping it's good news. I'm hoping they find something. Never know. Can happen anytime. So once again, Dr. Telesco, I want to see all of you there. And I think that she set up her YouTube channel a little differently this time. So I think I will be able to actually give you the direct link. So because before it's been like, go to the channel and then find the live link there somewhere. I think this time, very much like how I do this live show, or where I set everything up beforehand, post it in the group, post it on Twitter and everywhere else. And then all you have to do is click it and it comes on. After the last show in February, I told Dr. Telesco it'd be really nice if you could set it up that way. It'd be easier for people to watch the show. So I think they've done that this time. So when I get that link, I will post it. And all you have to do is click on it and the show will come on. All right, moving on. I do want to talk about this. Yes, I'm going to get to Tom Brown, but I do want to talk about this because you know how much I have an interest in plane crashes. I'm sure many of you saw that there was this plane crash in China just a few days ago. While I've been doing all Unfound work, I've been watching a couple YouTube videos. There's a channel called the Blanco Lirio channel. He is a commercial airline pilot. He analyzes crashes like this. He's done some coverage so far. A couple other channels have. And I've been reading a lot, gone to airliners.net into the forum there to see what the people there are saying. And what happened in this, what I'm going to tell you to look for, and I'm going to give you my opinion on what happened, because outside of disappearances, I've had a lifelong morbid fascination with plane crashes. But China Eastern Airlines Flight 5735 was on a flight that was not that long, only an hour, was flying from one city in China to another city in China, and it was at 29,000 feet. It was just getting ready to start its descent into where it was going to land, and all of a sudden it was here, and all of a sudden it went straight down, 29,000 feet, pulled up a little bit, and then once again just about went straight. I wouldn't say straight down, but according to the information they now have out there, and then also there's a couple videos, it wasn't straight down, but it was going down at a pretty good angle. This would be 90 degrees. I would say at about 70 degrees right into the ground. No chance for anybody to survive. None. The G-forces, when a plane hits the ground going like that, it must have been going 400 miles an hour into the ground. The G-forces are completely off the charts. They can't even be measured. No chance of survival for anybody. And if you've seen any pictures of the crater, the plane, it just goes into like confetti. It just looks like confetti. Poof. Well, what could have happened? How can this happen? And you probably don't realize this, but the choices are not as many as you might think. It is very rare for a plane to be traveling at cruise altitude, whatever that is, 35,000 feet, 38,000 feet, 29,000 feet, and then for something to go wrong mechanically, for it to go like this and fly straight down into the ground. Very, very, very rare. And in fact, unless there was something like a wing flew off or the tail flew off like at 29,000 feet, but how could that ever happen? But, what we have to remember is that the videos show it flying. It wasn't like, it wasn't falling like this, like tail first. It wasn't spinning and twisting as it was going onto the ground. This was straight in. Wings level, not like this. It wasn't in a bank or anything. Wings level, but the nose is pointed toward the ground. That would mean to me there was nothing wrong mechanically with the plane. That it had its wings, had its ailerons, all that, had the tail. But something happened for it to go straight into the ground. There are really only two possibilities. One, pilot suicide. This kind of flight and crash profile typifies suicides that have been done by pilots in the past. And I even have, if you'd like to look these up, you can look up Egypt Air Flight 990, which I remember very well. It was like in 1999. I can remember watching everything regarding that. I remember where I was living in Las Vegas. And that happened from a flight that was going from the United States, I think, to the Middle East. And it did kind of the same thing. It was a cruise, then all of a sudden went like this, pulled up a little bit, went back down right into the water. No survivors. The NTSB decided that it was pilot suicide. Egypt, the country of Egypt, also got involved, and they wanted to blame it on something else. I'm telling you, it was a suicide. Silk Air Flight 185. This is a disappearance that also happened in Southeast Asia, just like this recent flight happened. And that's also a situation where what the pilot did there is he actually flipped the plane over and went down backwards. I mean, it was nose, but it was upside down. So this would be upright. It was like this going in right into a rice paddy. The reason he did that is because he was deeply in debt. He had gotten in some business thing where he had lost a bunch of money, was broke, and he killed him. He killed him and everybody else on the plane. We also have a Mozambique flight 470. I don't know much about that one, but probably the most famous one was Germanwings flight 9525, which was not that long ago. It happened in Europe. And just straight out, this young man was suicidal. And what happened was that he was the co-pilot. The pilot got up to go to the restroom. When he got up, he shut the cockpit door. This guy was in there by himself. He made the door so the pilot couldn't get back in. He turned the autopilot to a certain setting that the plane would start nosing down. And instead of nosing down straight down like this recent flight where it was a crash, this was like a more gradual descent right into a bunch of mountains. And on, I guess it to be morbid or anything, but on the recorders that they found afterward, the cockpit voice recorder, you could hear the people trying to bust into the cockpit. Of course, they didn't make it. Oh, so this is a thing. It doesn't happen a lot, but pilots flying passenger airlines, passenger planes, it happens. Now, these are probably the most well-known 5. There are others, and we know of other people who may be on private planes, propeller planes, small jet planes, have committed suicide. But as far as commercial air travel, as we understand it, 100 people on a plane, 200, 300 people. These are some of the best well-known suicides, and pretty much all of them have the same profile of a plane that's on, cruise at whatever altitude. Then all of a sudden it starts going down in a straight fashion or very quickly down into the ground. So there's that. That's something you're going to have to consider. However, the other possibility could be a disappearance, a crash that just happened recently here in the United States, and it happened in Texas. And that was the crash of Flight 3591 Atlas Air, which is essentially Amazon Air. Amazon now has its own fleet of planes. It's called Atlas Air, but what they really do, it's carrying all Amazon packages. And that was a flight. I forget where it was coming from. Was it coming from Florida? Don't remember. But it was flying into the big Houston airport. Everything was fine. Plane is they're starting to configure it to land, but they're flying in some clouds. And this is a Boeing 767, big plane, but it's a cargo plane. There were only three humans on board, a pilot, co-pilot, and a guy who was like catching a ride in what they call the jump seat. And what happened was the co-pilot had reached over to do something, and it inadvertently hit what they call the go-round switch, which is something that's on the console in between the pilots. And when you hit that, it automatically gives a lot of power to the engines. Well, as they discovered afterwards, he did this by mistake. There was no reason to give a lot of power to the engines because they were trying to slow down because they were going to be landing. But because he didn't realize that he did this, of course, what happened was the plane accelerated and pushed him back into a seat, not realizing that he did this. And due to the way our balance works for us as humans, we're really not built to be in three-dimensional places. It's 2 dimensions. We do well left and right, but don't start talking to us about up and down. Spatial disorientation causes a lot of plane crashes. Well, what happened, because of the way the plane accelerated, it made him feel like the plane was nosing up. So maybe you felt this like when you've been on a motion simulator ride. What do? The way they make you feel like you're accelerating, what do? They push the thing back on the hydraulics, right? They push you back. You go back into your seat. it feels like you're accelerating. It on the screen, it looks like you're accelerating, but you're not. You're just being tilted backwards. Well, that happens on planes to pilots too, and you can get easily disoriented. And if you don't look at your instruments, you can quickly get yourself in a big time problem. And that's what happened here. The plane didn't nose up. All it did, it was still level. It was just starting to go faster, and they were in clouds, so he couldn't see the ground. The thing, the plane was going fast, but accelerating, but he thought it was going up. So what'd he do? He pushed forward on what they call the yoke, the steering wheel. They pushed it forward. Well, what does that do? That pushes the nose down. Well, they weren't that high up in the air. It wasn't at 29,000 feet. It was a lot lower than that. Well, what happened was he pushed it over and flew the plane right into the ground before the pilot could do anything. Total mistake. Now, it turns out afterwards that this co-pilot who did this did not have a very good safety record. He had failed some of his tests, and there's a big question on what he was doing in that jet in the first place. You should know this is a very common thing. You know, pilots make mistakes all the time. And hitting that go-around switch, that what they call the go-around switch, so it's just in it's just in a particular place. But this happens, and usually pilots are like, oh, I hit this. That's a mistake. I don't want to do that, and no crash happens. This guy panicked and pushed because he thought the plane was going up. He wanted to get the nose down, so he pushes forward to get the nose down. Well, it wasn't going up. It was flying level, and because of that, the plane accelerated, and he pushed it down, and before they could do anything, right into the ground, killing all three of them. That's how quickly it can happen. And it also hurt that all these clouds were around, and so they couldn't see what they were doing. And it wasn't until they came out of the clouds that probably they realized, oh my, we're pointed straight at the ground. They might have thought they were flying level. This is how our brains can fool us if we're not looking at our instruments. So I think this is certainly possible with this flight as well. It very well could be that they're starting to slow down to start, descending to the airport. Now it's a totally different plane. It's a 737, not a 767. And the guy does something, or, were two men flying it. I don't know. Maybe two women. I don't know. The one pilot hits something that he shouldn't have, that causes him to think that the plane is accelerating when it's really not. Really, it's doing something else. It's making him feel like it's going up, and it's not. And so what's he do? He pushes the yoke forward, and the plane goes down. And once you start accelerating, it doesn't take much. You're going with gravity, so the plane is going to accelerate very fast. Now, from what I've learned, is at 29,000 feet, that kind of problem should be able to be recovered from. 29,000 feet, that's like 5 miles in the air. You should be able to recover from that. And you'd think that they would have had enough time, if they noticed it was a mistake, to pull out of it. But that's not what happened. But that is also a possibility. The pilots might have had spatial disorientation caused by something that they thought they were flying flat, when actually they were pointed down. And by the time they came out of the clouds, it was too late to pull up, and they died. That is really the only two choices there are: suicide or that. Either way, it's probably pilot error, or a pilot instigated crash. Wanted to talk about that. All of you know that I'm fascinated with plane crashes. We've covered a couple plane disappearances on Unfound from Africa, of course, Flight 370, and I wanted to talk about that. Julie says kamikaze in these suicides, kind of. Suzanne, suicide by pilot, very well could be. Julie said suicide, that's what I thought, straight up. Stitching, oh my God, sorry, was on Facebook and found out my oldest niece got married today. Well, congratulations to her. Julie, well, suicide, then we will always call it kamikaze. Terrifying, Julie, yes, it is. So I just wanted to go through that. Maybe some of you aren't interested in plane crashes at all, but that's what they're going to be looking at. I know they found one of the boxes. Maybe they will find I think they found the cockpit voice recorder, which is going to be helpful. And hopefully they'll be able to get information off of it. And then hopefully they'll find the other box, which keeps track of all the instrumentation. What was the rudder doing? What would the airlines? No, I can't say them now. But the speed and the banking and everything else will be in the other recorder, and they'll be able to figure out. Truthfully, at least for them, the investigators, they'll probably be able to figure out what happened on this crash very quickly. We, the public, we may have to wait a while, but you should be looking at both of those two things, suicide or spatial disorientation. Okay, let's talk about that radio show hosted by that guy. And with this former investigator in Texas, and this is, of course, regards to Tom Brown. I listened to it. I listened to every word of it. I did that. It was the first thing that I did today. And, what am I supposed to say? I don't know this Michael Crane guy. I don't know what kind of experience he has investigating disappearances. Surely nobody out there has the experience of investigating a disappearance like Tom Brown's, with all of this stuff that has gone on over the last, 5.5 years, however long. It's surely nobody has experience like that. Not even myself. There is surely not a disappearance that I've covered that has so many facets to it. Not even Brian Schaefer's, not Jody Huisentruit's, none of them. Maybe Flight 370, but that's a little bit different. And, what is weird to me is that if you know anything about disappearances at all, and ones that have been solved, none of them ever end up being complex stories. Whether it's a murder, a suicide, an accident, none of them end up being that complex. None of them. But what Michael Crane and other people, and he was not the person who came up with this idea. I know what he talks about. Why he went there, he drove here, he drove there, he was timing all these things. The problem is that just because you did all that does not make those things facts of the disappearance. That's what people don't understand. My opinion is, just because you collect facts does not mean that they are part of the disappearance, but because you think that they are a part of the disappearance, you feel like you need to be compelled to fit it into the story, or it might not have anything to do with the disappearance at all. I know the point he was trying to make, for example, about Tucker. Well, there's no way he could have done this, and no way he could have been here at that time. And I realized that, trying to follow all of these times on a radio show is almost impossible. That's why I tried to avoid it when I do interviews, because people's minds just start going, they get saucers in their eyes. What are they trying to say here? But it very well could be that Tucker was just lying just because. Maybe he just thought this is a big waste of time. Maybe he thought, you know what? Why do I get the feeling that Tom, even though he comes home all the time, on time and everything, maybe he's out just cruising around and blowing off steam. Maybe he and Sage got into an argument. Maybe he's doing this. Maybe he's doing that. And maybe Tucker just thought this is just a big waste of time. And he was only going out with Pine Gregory just to satisfy his mother's desires. And so just to make her feel better, he's texting her and really not telling her the truth, because why? He thinks that Tom's going to come home anyway, and it's no big deal. Nobody's going to ever figure out that, yeah, I said I did this, but I really didn't. You know who does that all the time? Teenagers do that all the time about anything. And I was a teenager once. I don't have any, but it's just crazy to think that because he was saying this, but he wasn't there. People do that all the time. I've done that. That doesn't mean there's anything nefarious about it. That's the first part. The second part is that it's just hard to imagine. I think I even have it written. I have a bunch of notes, but I'm not going to get to them. I wrote all these notes out. Then I decided, you know what, I'm not going to go point by point because I've done this all before. And I don't, I never want to be put in a position where I'm reacting to things. I don't want people to determine my agenda. Only I determine Unfound's agenda. But I think about Sherry Papini's disappearance, being that we now know what actually happened. The fact is this. The reason a lot of people rejected her disappearance is why? It's just too complex. It's just too weird. To think that she just happened to be running along, that she just happened to be picked up by two Hispanic women who didn't speak English, that she just happened to escape or she was let go. That's why a lot of people rejected it. Remember, we just went through this a couple weeks ago because she's been charged with all these felonies for lying about all of this. But the reason people rejected her story is it just seemed too weird. But the problem I have is that now we have this story that has been put out by many people, now by Michael Crane. This is a weird story and people accept it. It just doesn't seem very consistent. Here's what I think I know. It's more likely that Sherry Papini got kidnapped by two Hispanic women speaking Spanish than it would be for a family, anybody, to stand there, watch their son get kill himself, let's say, right in their house, and then within minutes concoct a story about how they're going to make it look like the cops did it. Which sounds like a crazier story to you? So, and we already think that Sherry Papini is crazy. She needs attention and all these other things. Most people rejected her story, me included. Of course, I'm always open as facts change, theories change. But we rejected her story. Why? It's just too crazy. And guess what? We were right. So why is it then with this story that Michael Crane and other people are pushing forward that everybody just readily accepts it? That yes, they stood over Tom's dead body and figured out how they were going to make it look like somebody else did it. There are no facts to support that. As much as we've talked about the phone being fake, you know what? We've kind of run into that before on Unfound on other cases where something was found and it seemed like it should be in worse condition than it was. And one that I think of is, because I was just looking at it and going over old Unfound episodes, Helen Diamond. She had this jacket that she had that night. It went missing with her, and then all of a sudden it appeared out in the middle of nowhere, and it was in pretty good condition. And everybody thought, well, how did that happen? My opinion, and it was, I guess, proven to be hers. My opinion is that somebody picked it up somewhere. We're going to keep it, and then found out, oh, you know what? This might be that missing woman's, and I don't want to be caught with it. So you know what they did? They went out and put it somewhere out in the woods where somebody would find it. That's what I think, because this would be going along with human nature. So when it comes to Tom's phone, I know a lot has been made. Well, his phone's always with its charger. Well, you know what? I carry my phone with me all the time too, but sometimes I forget it, and I have a pretty good mind. And I can even tell you, not long ago, I went to trivia without my wallet, and my wallet goes with me everywhere. Just this particular time, I didn't even know it until I went to pay the bill, and I was like, oh, I don't have my wallet. Luckily, my brother paid and was there with me. So is it crazy to believe that maybe Tom just went out with just his phone without the charger that night, even though all these other times the charger was on the phone? Of course not. Now, as far as the phone being where it was, could it be that phone was deposited just like the backpack was, just like the computer was somewhere, and somebody was walking along or driving along and stopped there and found a phone? Oh, I got a phone. And then, oh, they found out Tom Brown's missing. Hey, this might be his phone. And they went back and put it somewhere so it could be found. I know it's a stretch, but that's no crazier than thinking that Tom's family stood over his dead body and, came up with this plan within moments, as people want to believe that, you know what, we're going to make it look like somebody killed Tom. So when you tell me, well, my situation is crazy, I think that is crazy. That is crazy. I would also ask you this. If he committed suicide when he got home and they covered up, where exactly did he do this? He didn't do it in the car. He didn't do it as in his Durango. You know how I know? Because there was no blood in it or anything when they found it the next day. If he killed himself, shot himself in the car, there would be blood everywhere. There is no way nobody could clean it up. Did he do it out in front of his house? I guess not, because Michael Crane wanted to make the point, Penny wouldn't allow the investigator to go inside the house. So they're standing out there and there's blood from where he killed himself. Of course not. Well, if he killed himself inside the house, there is no way that would ever be able to be cleaned up. Penny and her family moved out of that house not long after. Has anybody thought about going over to that house and asking the new homeowner, hey, can we check that out? So this is the way I think about it. Now, as far as Penny's husband, and I forget his first name right now. Well, Michael Crane made the big point. Well, he never came out that night. Maybe he was in bed because he was thinking, you know what, Tom's going to come home any minute now, and I'm losing sleep because I have to go to work the next day, or I need to get up for Thanksgiving the next day. Remember, it's not his son. Is it possible he was like, you know what, I think Tucker and Penny are just, overreacting to Tom not being home? This is all crazy. Is it not possible that he was just inside? He didn't want to stand out there because he didn't agree with what was going on. You know how I would know that? Because that happens a lot in disappearances. Nobody ever thinks a disappearance is going to happen in their family, ever. To the point that they will lie to themselves for days, weeks, months, as in Eric Franks' disappearance. Somebody posed being him for like 6 months using his phone and his laptop, probably his ex-girlfriend, Kendra. Everybody was in denial that he was missing. Could it not that just be what was going through Penny's husband's mind too? That he just didn't want to get involved because he thought it was an overreaction. Okay, so he's home, late. Big deal. That people that this is not even brought up. That may not even be the situation. But people automatically go to the most nefarious, most sinister, evil idea is bizarre to me. Why do people do that? Why do people automatically go to the most suspicious choice that people can make when there are other things that we know about ourselves, about our lives, about how we've reacted to things where people could think the worst of us, but we know that wasn't true? So why do we think the worst of other people? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. On top of everything else, remember what parts of Tom were found. His skull was found and some of his upper torso. So if he committed suicide, how exactly did he do this? Because here's what I know. There were no bullet holes in his head. So how did he do that? Unlike, for example, Janelle Matthews, when she was found after 35 years, they knew for sure she had been shot. Why? Because there was a bullet hole in the back of her head. We still don't know who did it, but we certainly know that she was murdered. So what exactly happened that night? He shot himself in the stomach. That's one of the most slow, agonizing deaths that anybody could ever have. Getting shot in the stomach. And plus, there's blood everywhere. Once again, how would anybody clean that up? To the point that they could sell the house a few months down the road and somebody not notice, you know what? I think something's going on here. So that's really all I have to say. I think it's crazy. I continue to say it's crazy. I don't care. There are a lot of crazy people. I know. Oh, Penny, she was crazy in college. She was this, she was that. Yeah. And there are a lot of people crazy in college in their lives. They don't cover up their sons or daughters' deaths. So, I have no complaint about that guy, that host on that radio station having this Michael Crane on. But to me, no experienced investigator would ever come on a show. And you have to remember something. The host of that show did not seek Michael Crane out. Michael Crane contacted him. Why? Because he wants to be on the radio. He wants to be on the radio. So there you go. That's my rant. Wish that John wouldn't have gone with his wife and sister-in-law on a crappy day. Thank you, Stitching. You're very generous. I'm going to keep up the hard work. Thank you, Stitching. Julie, same with Kobe Bryant. They should have never taken off. Yes, that's a very good example of spatial disorientation. Carrie says, I think what makes it so complicated is all the drama that is inserted into the case, for sure. That is interesting as heck. Larry, hello, Larry. Brown was not a disappearance. It never was. It was a body stash job. Okay, Larry. Cherie, I think he did use facts. It is hard to know what the truth is anymore because it all has become a sideshow, sadly, for Tom. Cherie says, I don't think it's crazy to consider all the options, especially since one of them has been proven. Carrie, can't bag on stepdad when bio dad didn't go look either. Right. Carrie, I haven't listened to the interview. All the drama around the case makes me sick for Tom's memory. Leslie, can you tell us what your theory is? Leslie, here's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use my own experience of 240 disappearances. Do you know how many disappearances we've covered where people have just walked off and died? Many. It's the most it's of the ones that have been solved. It's the most common scenario. Crystal Morrison, Robbie Hurt, probably Chris Turner. These things happen. And in fact, there are many disappearances that I look at on a day-to-day basis, just looking at disappearance news. A lot of people, the person walked off and they're found a few days later dead. It's very common. Now, how did this happen? What exactly happened? But it's not crazy to think that. Now, you should remember something. Just because Tom's remains were found 12 miles away does not mean that's where he ended up. It very well could be an animal pulled part of his body to that location. Remember, his bottom half has still not been found. What happens if one of these days we happen to find his lower, or we don't, but somebody does, his lower extremities a mile from where the Durango was? What then? What then? On top of everything else, why would Penny and whoever else not get rid of his body better? Because there's no way they could have ever planned that Pine Gregory would find his remains, right? I think it's all crazy. I think it's all insane. I think that my experience, and I've written things to the contrary, but can we just not say that, Tom was troubled, and so Tom would have just walked off. And maybe he did hang himself or something else, and he did something out there. Animal comes along and takes him to another spot, and that's why there's no proof of his suicide, because where his body actually was, it's not there anymore. His body was found at a different location because some animal dragged it there. Dragged it there. Does that not sound more reasonable and more in line with what we know about disappearances than all this other stuff? Doesn't it? I think it does. Leslie says, I'm at a loss at this point. A lot of people are, but he was so young. Age doesn't matter. Devin Bond walked off and shot himself. He was younger than Tom, and he did it because he wasn't allowed to see a girl anymore. Ed, come on. They don't cover up their sons or daughters' deaths. Well, I mean, there's no proof that happened, Larry. That's just a theory. That's just a theory that is not backed up at any sort of evidence on any other disappearance that I know about. Paula, why do some want to make it seem so complicated? I don't see the, because they, you know why, Paula? Because they want something to talk about. They love the drama. They love the arguing. This is the reason that it's involved in Jennifer Kessie's disappearance and Mara Murray's disappearance and everything else. People love the BS. People love the gossip. You know, and that's one of the things I've tried to do with Unfound is keep the gossip out of it and keep things as simple as possible. Because why? That's what history shows us, that when these disappearances are solved, it's simple. We don't like it. Some of these simple disappearances solved are murders. Zoe Campos, very simple to understand. She went to some guy's house and he murdered her. Andrea Bowman, very easy to understand. She had an evil father who killed her. Esther Westenbarger, a little confusing at the beginning, but certainly not rare. She was probably drinking and driving, drove into that pond. So then why, after all this evidence we have of all these solved disappearances, does everybody automatically go to the most complicated, sophisticated, you know, like super villainous James Bond plot? It's weird. It's just weird. All right, let's move on. So that's all I have to say about that. Let's move on to this Friday's disappearance. Like I said, both audio and video. It will be the disappearance of Kimberly Wilson Talley. She disappeared. We do not have an exact date, which is something we'll get into in the interview. Early January of 2017 from Youngstown, Ohio, a city I kind of know because my sister lives near there. And the guest, as you will see on video on here, right on this channel, is her sister, Keena Hardy. And the title of the episode is Snapshot. This is a weird one. You're going to hear about a fact that I don't think we've ever heard of before, and it comes from a picture that was taken from a toll booth on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, even though she disappeared. She lived in Youngstown, Ohio. Kimberly was a cancer survivor at the time. She was somewhat recovering from a cancer operation. And she was in a relationship with a guy named Delmar. He's going to play a prominent part in the discussion, as you would imagine. But that is this Friday's disappearance. Kimberly Wilson Talley. The title of the episode is Snapshot. Early January of 2017, it was the disappearance time. She lived in Youngstown, Ohio. Her sister, Keena Hardy, is the guest. And like I said, it will come out as an audio episode and a video episode on Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Of course, YouTube will be video. Everywhere else will be audio. So that's all I got. Kind of went over time tonight if we're sticking to that 2-hour time frame. So what did we do tonight? I talked a little bit about disc golf. Talked about my niece, her husband, and daughter are here. Dad wants to come to Florida. We'll see if that happens. Talked about the truck and the tornado, the Wackenhager poll, that radio show, and that radio host doing an interview regarding Tom Brown's death. YouTube, I've already talked about that enough. Juanita Nelson came up. Connie Burrell, remember her and her daughter's death. Stormy Dorsey, Desiree Ferris, Dr. Telesco, talked about Flight 5735. That's all I got. I'm worn out. I'm emotionally spent. But do not forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and you will hear me and see me on Friday if you care to come over here to YouTube and watch. Good night, everyone.